Good day, everyone. This is the title of my research, English Language Acquisition of Filipino Children Exposed to English TV Shows. Now, the observed ability of Filipino children to speak the English language fluently by being exposed to English TV shows proves that language acquisition remains a fascinating characteristic of human development. These children are not just speaking the language or the grammar or the vocabulary, but also the accent. How these children apply English language is recognizable. There are questions raised on how these children acquire English at their very young age, knowing that they were surrounded by, or they are surrounded by Filipinos speaking different dialects. There are many studies prove on how effective television is in language acquisition, and few studies determine on the factors of language acquisition. So this presentation, this paper aims to discuss the different theories of children's language acquisition, the English TV programs as a factor in children's English language acquisition, and the other factors that help Filipino children effectively acquire the English language through exposure to English TV programs. First, approaches or theories to children's language acquisition. Now, there are three determined in this study. First is the behavior approach by John Locke and B.F. Skinner, the tabula rasa of John Locke, and the conditioning of B.F. Skinner. We have the cognitive approach by Noam Chomsky and John Piaget, universal grammar of Noam Chomsky, and the language development in the brain by John Piaget. And then the sociocultural by Lev Vygotsky, the language and environment. First is the behavior approach. The behaviorist John Locke theorized that children are born with a clean slate or a tabula rasa, bearing no knowledge about language. These children gradually acquire language as they are molded by their environment and conditioned through various supports. That's according to Brown 2000. John Locke believed that when a child is born, his brain is like a blank slate, and that, or it's a tabula rasa, bearing no knowledge about language, and whatever first language or whatever language you're going to fill in that blank slate, that would be the language that the children acquire. Okay, so these children gradually acquire language as they are molded by their environment and conditioned through various supports. So B.F. Skinner supported this approach as he believed that the fundamentals of the language essentially developed through conditioning and the formation of good language habits. So conditioning of that language will actually help on the language acquisition and development of a child. That's according to Castillo, 2015. Number two is the cognitive approach. Noam Chomsky believes that children are born with a black box device found in their brain, which contains all the universal principles of all human languages. He said that a child's brain contains unique language learning mechanisms or an innate skill to learn a language at birth that needs to be activated by the natural language. That's according to Nelson 2013. For Chomsky, language is a competency that is unique to humans. This language acquisition ability is innate, differentiating us from other animals, Nath 2010. So for Chomsky, he believes that a child is born with a black box, and that black box is actually filled with universal grammar, and whatever triggered, whatever language in the environment that the child has will trigger that black box, that universal grammar, and then that would adapt the language in the environment of the child. So yeah, universal grammar is the foundation of all human languages. So that black box device in the brain or in the mind of a child is filled with universal grammar. So it's universal grammar, and the language in that child's environment will be the one to trigger that universal grammar, and then that would that would trigger the universal grammar and allow the child to adapt that language. So Jean Piaget posited that the children's brain already contains a particular device for learning a language. Piaget theorized that language was simply one of the means for children to represent their familiar environment, a reflection of thought. That language helped not to the development of thinking. Cognitive development proceeded with language acquisition. And so Piaget believes that a child is born with the capacity or ability to speak or to use language. Just like Noam Chomsky, Jean Piaget believes that a child is born with an innate to use language. So a child has a capacity to speak language or to use language. And as the child is growing, he will be able to adapt the language around him. So for Piaget, as the child's brain develops, the language also will develop. The third one is the sociocultural approach. Lev Vygotsky's fundamental concern is the relationship between the development of thought and that of language. He believes that different languages impact how a human uses his brain. Vygotsky believes in social communication, gradually promoting language itself and cognition. The third approach is a sociocultural approach. Lev Vygotsky's fundamental concern is the relationship between the development of thought and that of language. He believes that different languages impact how a human uses his brain. Vygotsky believes in social communication, gradually promoting language itself and cognition. He argues that thought finds reality and form in speech. Now, the word structures mastered by the child become the primary structure of his or her reasoning. The structure of the language the child often uses influences how he or she perceives his or her environment. That's according to Nath 2010. So Vygotsky argues that language and culture play essential roles in human intellectual development and how humans perceive the world. That's according to Nath 2010. English TV programs and children's English language acquisition. Now, one significant factor in children's language acquisition is their environment. Children produce several words at a very young age, which significantly connects with subsequent language development to words heard in their environment. That's according to Dali 2019. So Babak Gassemi et al. 2011 supported this supposition that whatever the children become familiar with the language in their earlier years, they have a better chance of speaking proficiency. So we already know from those three theories how child acquire language, and that it's very easy for them to acquire language and what language they are exposed to. So it says here that children, by Dali 2019, children produce several words at a very young age, which significantly connects with subsequent language development to words heard in their environment. So the child will definitely acquire language around them. Now, why Filipino parents expose their children to English TV shows? Maybe for others, they believe that English is actually the definition of intelligence. That's why they are allowing their children to watch television shows, for their children to learn English language at their very young age. But there are three identified reasons why parents allowed their children to watch television shows. It's either English television shows or television shows. Now, the first one is for reward. The second one is for entertainment. And the third one is for English language learning development. Now, according to Rogers 2013, television shows are a good source of authentic input for language learners. They provide a large amount of language spoken input, which can contribute to developing vocabulary knowledge and listening skills. That's according to Webb 2015. Now, television programs bring to life the ideas they show. Exposure to English TV shows is one of the best ways to advance both the listening and the speaking skills of a child. In watching English television shows, the children's very active skill is their listening skills. Listening is one of the needs in learning either a first or a second language. It is a vital skill for the children to develop to understand native speakers and the conversations in the English television shows. The more they pay attention and listen, the more they will comprehend. The more they comprehend, the better they will use English. That's according to Gilak Jani, 2016. Also, the dialogue in TV programs shows how English speakers communicate verbally with one another in real life. So the English language the child learns from this conversation is authentic. Linebarger and Walker 2004, as cited by Luvirud 2014, in her research said that children's English television shows are interactive shows that imitate language learning in real life situations to enable learning using television. So in the children's English television shows, the character seems to speak directly to the child to actively encourage participation, name objects, and provide chances to respond. Now, I had this chance to watch English television shows, especially if I'm going to visit the houses of my friends. They are allowing their child to watch English television shows because some of my friends or most of my friends are actually English teachers. So they're exposing their children also to English television shows. And I could really see, and I know you too, that English television shows are interactive. They are the character is actually allowing the children, the viewers, to actively engage in that conversation or in that shows. Now, other factors that affect the effectiveness of English TV shows to children's English language acquisition. Now, by just watching the English television shows, we cannot just say that just because of that, just by watching the television shows, the child could acquire or would acquire English already. But there are other factors, three identified factors in this research that affect the effectiveness of English TV shows to children's English language acquisition. And these are the age, the extensive viewing, and repetition. Now for age, there are three hypotheses. First is the critical period hypothesis. The second one is the lateralization hypothesis and Kranz hypothesis. Now, Penfield and Roberts, 1959, as cited by Hoos, 2016, introduced the critical period hypothesis. This hypothesis suggests that there is a critical period in human language acquisition development. Language acquisition can occur naturally and efficiently in a certain period, but the brain stops processing new language naturally after the critical period. So before this critical period, it is better for these children to acquire English language or to be exposed to English language. Number two is Lineberg's lateralization hypothesis. So this hypothesis states that language learning and children's brains are flexible in acquiring language before the puberty stage because during the puberty period, the localization of language processing ability in the human's left brain is connected with the human's biological development already. So after puberty stage, it would be difficult it would be hard for a child to acquire second language or whatever language he wants to. And that's the lateralization hypothesis of Lindbergh's. So it's really better for the child to be exposed to in different languages before they are going to reach puberty stage. And the third one is Krashen's 1973 hypothesis suggests that human brain lateralization finished at 5. So if according to Lindbergh's, lateralization will be done during puberty stage, Krashen's hypothesis said that human brain lateralization finished at 5. Okay, so the younger, the better. The younger the child learns or acquire English language, the better they are going to use that, or the better retention they are going to have. I remembered just now. I remembered when I was in elementary. Yeah, I was still in elementary. I had this classmate who has a cousin coming from Hong Kong. Yeah, Hui Huiha. Her name is Huiha, and she could speak 5 languages. She could speak Tagalog. She could speak English. She could speak Chinese. She could speak Japanese, and yeah, she could speak Bisaya because her mother is a Bisaya, her father is a Chinese. So yeah, she could speak, and it really amazes me. You know, she could speak at that very young age, and she could speak 5 languages at that age. She was like 6 years old that time when she visited our place there in Southern Leyte. I don't know where she is now, but I that time I was really wondering how this child, I was actually in grade 6. I was actually in grade 6 when I met her. She was 6 years old, and I was actually amazed on how she acquired those language. And before I just thought, yeah, maybe because her parents are well off, so that they could allow her to send her to different languages schools. But I think I know the answer now, that if a child is exposed to different languages at their very young age, um, she will acquire those. Because my classmate told me that Huiha's family is actually transferring from one country to another. So from Hong Kong, they went to Japan, they went to China, and then at the house, her mother is teaching her Filipino language, and his father is speaking to her in Chinese, and then she is watching English television shows. So maybe that's how she really acquired those languages. And it was not very difficult for her to acquire 5 languages at a very young age, because yeah, that's the capacity of a child's brain. And the younger, the better. So Gawi's study, The Effects of Age Factor on Learning English, a case study of learning English in Saudi schools, Saudi Arabia, suggested that most younger children were more successful than adults in second language acquisition. Childhood is the golden age to be considered in second language learning or in English language acquisition. Number 2 factor is extensive viewing. Extensive viewing involves regular, silent, and interrupted viewing of English television programs inside the children's house or in the classroom. With more excellent viewing time, comprehension and vocabulary learning will improve to a more significant degree. That's according to Webb 2015. And according to Roger 2013, as cited by Webb, the benefits of extensive viewing include improved listening comprehension and vocabulary learning. So watching English television show for a very short time would not be enough for a child to acquire that language or that English language, but extensive viewing will help. So that's why if a child will be exposed, so it means there is an extensive viewing, exposed to English television shows, they are going to really acquire that language. Okay, they are going to really acquire that language. The third one is repetition. A single exposure to an English television show is usually inadequate for good long-term retention. So just like the extensive viewing, watching once the English television show or program or movie is not enough for a child to acquire English language through television shows. So there should be repetition. Better retention needs repetition. Okay, repeating an English television show reminds the children of its prior occurrence, which prompts retrieving the previous presentation of the show, a process that enhances memory. That's according to Kang S. 2016. So there's a need of repetition for the child's memory, or for the child to better acquire the vocabularies, the grammar used, the sentences used in the English television show. So age is a factor. extensive viewing is a factor, and repetition is a factor also that would help the television viewing, the English television shows viewing for the language or for the English acquisition of a child. So reviewing English TV programs over and over again supports the children's comprehension. If there are difficult words the children encounter in the shows, repeated viewing might provide a way to help learners to understand better the program and the vocabulary used. Frequent encounters with topic-related words also positively affect vocabulary learning because repetition with the exact words increases the potential for vocabulary learning. That's according to Web 2015. So conclusion. So since speaking English is essential as the world has become highly competitive in education and technology, it is just an advantage to expose Filipino children to English TV shows or other media tools for English language acquisition and development. Parents' awareness of the different theories and factors on children's language acquisition helps them better guide, encourage, and assess their children's English television show engagement. So the younger the child acquires English from their environment, the better. The younger the child acquires English from their environment, the better. So this is the end of my presentation. I would be glad to entertain or to answer your question.